Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve, myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And it has been a couple of weeks since we was live recording, guys. Like, life gets in the way, this time of the year when everyone starts celebrating Christmas and different holidays and birthdays from my end. My son's birthday and my birthday last week, and it's just all been crazy and hectic. But how are we? How are you, Alex?
Good. Got a new Funko. I actually went in Books A Million the other day and found this guy. It's Eddie from Stranger Things.
Okay, yeah.
Pretty sweet. I was pretty stoked about that.
And he's out of the box as well.
Yeah. I'm actually taking a few more of mine out of the box. I took that Daredevil one out that I showed you guys not too long ago. I've got this one out just for the holidays, so I like this one a lot. But yeah, I've got me a few comics. Went and dug through some back issues the other day. I do not have them over here to show off, but yeah, some Ghost Rider comics. I got some variant covers I was pretty stoked about. So love my variant covers on comics. So
It's gotta be done. Jaren, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Happy birthday belated to you and your son. So everything else good. Doing well. Got some new Legos. Got the DuckTales and Donald Duck and Goofy and Daffy, the Brickheads yesterday or Friday at the Lego store. Got my Avengers Tower in, which I'm happy about that one. Those points came in handy because I paid 0 for that tower. Yeah. So yeah, using those points came in handy. Haven't read anything. Probably here once I go on Christmas break, probably get some stuff in to read. Probably look at some different runs, but yeah, doing pretty good.
Nice. Tell me your DuckTales Lego is Scrooge McDuck's safe, and it's got loads of those tiny little gold Lego coins. And
I wish. I might have to build that because they're just the Brickheads. So the main one was like Scrooge McDuck and the 3 kids, the younger ones. And then you had Donald and Daffy second, I think, or separate, and then Goofy and somebody else separate. And then I got the Rescue Rangers too, so I got Chip and Dale also.
Nice. Awesome.
So yeah, my son saw that, and he right away started singing the Coca-Cola. The cult of cola, where they're on that cult with the different flavors of cola. He picked it up, started singing that right away in the store. Come along, you belong.
Nice. Not much news happening in my end. I've got a child's advent calendar for Christmas. So we was in the shop with my mum. I took my mum out for her birthday, and she said, "I just need to pop in this shop." We popped in, and she said, and I saw this big child's Marvel advent calendar. It's got like a mini story a day for 25 days. And I was like, "Oh, this is good." And she was like, "Would you want it then for your birthday?" I was like, "Mum, it's a child's advent calendar." She was like, "It's all right." She went, "What else are you going to have for your birthday?" I was like, "Okay." So she's got me this. It's massive. It's huge. It's like a poster, and then it's a big book, and you have to open it up. And I've been reading the little stories each day. They're like really basic stories, but it's quite fun.
That's awesome.
It is, yeah. It's something fun, and it's something you can keep as well. I chuck it up in the loft and at the end of Christmas, and then get it out next year and read them all again. So that's all good fun. And on Alex and Jamie's recommendations, I have now watched the entire series of 12 Monkeys.
Nice.
Which have you watched it, Jari?
I have not watched that series yet. I've heard good things about it, but I need to watch it still.
Yeah. I'd highly recommend it. I thought it was very good. There were some things in it which were I want to use a better word, but they were like cheap. There was a few cheap things in it, but it did and Jamie said this, and I was like, that's the perfect way to describe it. It did the important things really well. Like the big story elements, it just nailed them brilliantly. Really, really good. And the character development of 4 or 5 of the characters is just superb over the course of the 4 seasons.
Yeah, and I think a lot of time travel like esque shows like do a lot of the same kind of tropes in them like throughout like a lot of the same ones, but I think that show does some stuff that is like I never would have imagined, like the time traveling city that they have. Like I love that. Like that's so different, you know. But there's like a few different little things that they do throughout that show, that they've got big loops, they've got small loops, they've got all kinds of little things. And I mean, like even the first to the last episode is kind of like a little bit of a loop, so that's nice.
Yeah, that is nice. But yeah, very good. So that's why I've been how I've been using my time. But we're here today. We're going to catch up on Gen V. We realised we did the first 3 or 4 episodes, I believe.
3. Yep.
Yeah, first 3 episodes, and then obviously we got overrun with Loki finishing up and the Marvels and you know, that kind of stuff, and we totally forgot to come on and recap the rest of Gen V. And obviously since then we've had a new trailer for season 4 of The Boys, so we thought we'd jump on and go through that. We've got 1 episode left of the year, which would be next week, and we're going to do a little yearly review. But today, yeah, let's finish off our sort of recap of season 1 of Gen V and where The Boys might look like it's heading. I mean, on the whole, I really enjoyed the Gen V first season. In fact, I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than what I've enjoyed most of the seasons of The Boys, except maybe the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I like Gen V a lot more than a lot of other things that have been out recently. It was just really well written.
Mm-hmm.
And that ending really caught me off guard. I did not expect that they were going to go that way. I thought it was going to go slightly different. But yeah, fantastic show.
Yeah, I think the characters were brilliant. Like you said, Alex, I think they were really well written. And, you know, there was 4 or 5 characters in that show who I really enjoyed for different reasons. And yeah, I think that the cast was excellent as well. I think the actors were superb in the way that they delivered their material. But and some interesting powers as well. I know we kind of discussed this on our first episode about Gen V, but some really interesting powers, like relevant powers, you know, powers that sort of speak to a lot of the struggles that certainly young people and some older people are going through right now. And I think it was very indicative of the times, wasn't it? And very, you know, some of the issues that people are struggling with and that are the hot topics that was focused on quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really think that one of the characters that really stood out to me was Sam. I felt like Sam got like an interesting kind of like change of pace on his story throughout this show. So that was really interesting to see where his character began and where that ended up. I think a lot of the other characters throughout this show, there's a lot of attachment that's built to a lot of these characters in a short amount of time.
Sam?
I think that's huge for this show.
Is Sam basically Bucky before they fix his mind? Would you equate him to that kind of powers without the metal arm, but with definitely that strength, definitely the issues caused because whether it's the years of abuse or just his own internal struggles? But he kind of seemed, I guess you could say, a cross between Bucky and the Hulk, because he did have those jumping abilities too. But he seemed more, to me, kind of like Bucky before Bucky got his mind right.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of seemed kind of close to like Homelander's origin to me. Like, you know, Homelander was like kind of like raised in a lab and like they kind of just poked and prodded. That was kind of like what they kind of did to Sam. I mean, they have that one scene where you find out Golden Boy is getting like blood extracted out of his brother and put into Golden Boy to make him stronger and things like that. So, I kind of felt that kind of semblance there.
I like I like that actually, Joe, and I thought you were right there. It's a good point. I never even thought about it, a cross between Bucky and Hulk, because yeah, he obviously was experimented on, and then when he had those kind of moments, those violent moments, he did kind of phase out a little bit. Although he did tend to remember. There was a great moment, a great little line he says to Emma towards the end of the show, and he says something like, I'm sure he says, "I did rip a guy in half," and she said, "Oh, that's okay." He was. She said something to him, and then he went, "But he was a puppet at the time."
Speaking of the puppets, man, those are well done, and the cameos by Jason Ritter as well with the puppets and the way that he would just phase in and out between real and not real. You know, kind of give me PETA vibes with the Tracker Jackers from Hunger Games when he would kind of like real, not real kind of moments. It kind of gave me that kind of vibe, but the puppets were well done, and some of those puppet scenes were definitely wild, and that's all I'll go into about that.
I mean, I did think that like puppet fight scene where he's like literally like tearing the puppets up and there's supposed to be like the SWAT team coming in on him. I thought that was pretty funny. Like it's like one of those things, like it's gruesome, but at the same time you can't help but laugh. It's so ridiculous looking, you know.
I think because you kind of knew it was happening. Do you know what I mean? It was happening in the background, wasn't it? Like it was just masked by puppets, but you knew this was happening. Even then, I was going, "Oh, whoa, yeah." You know, if you would have seen that with, it wouldn't be real people, would it? I guess, but with CGI, it would have been quite interesting to see how they would have done that if they would have done that. I mean, we'll get to the season 4 boys trailer as we go on. I think they're going to take some steps in that direction, but there was the little twist, and I'm still not convinced that, because we saw Kate talking to Shetty, the dean, and when they was in her house, and it was almost like they were working together. We know they were working together, but it was like Shetty had persuaded Kate that this was all, you know, it was all good, and she was going to trick him. I thought that's what was happening. I thought Kate was going to trick the other guys, the other characters. And when she came in, I was still not convinced that they saw Shetty, you know, kill herself, didn't she? She cut her own neck. I wasn't convinced that had actually happened. I thought that was all in their heads. I thought Kate was putting that in their heads at the time, and I'm still not convinced that isn't the case.
I mean, you see that the dean had like sort of a nice little history with Kate. She kind of like plucked her from, she was kind of trapped in that room as a girl. She grew up like kind of alone and everything, and she brought her to that school. So I was a little bit caught off guard when that happened in the show.
Nice tie-in, actually, her story, Shetty's story, you know, why her motivations, a nice tie-in to the boys. And that moment, I was watching most of Gen V with my son, who hasn't watched much of the boys. I don't think he's watched a lot of it at all. And I had to kind of go back and play that episode with the plane and say, oh, look, this is what they were talking about. You know, her family were on this plane. But I thought that was a nice little tie-in to the boys and to her story. I thought that was very good. But yeah, and then, you know, like you said, Alex, the way that finished off, they kind of flipped it to the way that, you know, the way that you was expecting. But it's no surprise, is it? Because they rewrite the story all the time. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I was going to say,
I'm breaking up a little bit. I apologize.
So they rewrite that. You know, when I say they, I mean Vault.
Yes.
They to rewrite stories all the time, just rewrite them in their favor, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's kind of what you see at the end of this show, right? With Kate and Sam, which is Sam was kind of like one of those situations where, you know, they were going to experiment on him. They knew he was extremely powerful, but they didn't really know what to do with him because they couldn't really control him because his mind wasn't where they wanted it to be. And I mean, that's kind of like the difference between like him and Homelander's uncontrollable, but his mind is there. Like he's not having like psychotic breaks and things like that. And, I mean, he is, but you know what I'm saying. Like he's doing it because he wants to. He's not doing
he enjoys it.
He's like mentally, he's like mentally like losing it or anything. You know, he's doing it because he's a bad person. But Sam seems like a good person. He can't control like when those things happen and everything. So I feel like you kind of see that kind of like mirroring of that situation. But I mean, like when they finish this and you see like Marie like fight Kate and blow her arm off and everything like that, I was just like, whoa. Like, you know, Marie's got that great moment where she like literally pulls the blood out of all the dead people and makes like knives and throws them. Oh man, like that's great. Like they did so many creative things with their powers and stuff in this show. And I think you're right, Andy. I think with like, in comparison to the boys, this show was a little bit more creative in how it used powers versus the boys at times, which the boys just tends to be really gruesome and, you know, kind of dark at times. So
yeah, and do you know what, with the boys as well, it felt like this felt like a step. This felt like they were using the gruesome side and the graphic side of things perfectly for me. So like, it took me back to season 1 of the boys, where it was kind of gruesome. It was graphic, but it wasn't the later season, I say the later seasons, we've only had 3 seasons of The Boys, haven't we? So like the 3rd season of The Boys, maybe, and maybe even some of the 2nd season, it just felt like they were just trying to, it was like shock factor. Let's see how gruesome we can get. Where with this, and with season 1 of The Boys, but certainly with Gen V, I did feel like it was gruesome, but there was almost always a point to it rather than just trying to be gruesome. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, seeing Homelander in this show at the end was like, I mean, that was, I did not expect. I know we had like talked about that. There were rumors about that. I did not expect to see him fly in. I was like, when I was watching, I was like, oh wow, like like, and I didn't expect it to go the way that it did with Homelander.
Yeah,
that scene, you know, I felt like that was just kind of like he stops, he lands, and he just kind of like looks around at everybody, and then he just like goes to work, and I was like, huh. Like, you know, it seems like with Homelander, he would have been very protective of the Supes, I would have thought, but like, it seems like there was maybe something going on there. It seemed like maybe, I don't know if he knew of it before he showed up and attacked who he did, but it almost makes you feel like maybe that was part of the narrative that they wanted to form, or who knows, maybe he just showed up and attacked them, and then they just made the narrative around Homelander.
Yeah. I think it was that. I think because you could tell with Ashley, it was Ashley, right? She's the one who provided. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She, you know, how she was talking to Marie and that kind of stuff. If you help us out, you know, we'll do all this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you figure that if she would have called Homelander in, Homelander would have been to know that it's not Marie, it's not Emma, it's not Jordan, it's not any of them. It was Kate and Sam instead, but he kind of came in hot, you know, do what he wanted to do, and then he's just like, he thought it was them doing it, and so he's like, I'm taking them out. But interesting too, I wonder if when he laser beamed Marie in that situation, if he gave her full force or if he held back, because she survives as far as we know with them being in that room. So that was interesting too. Or does her powers, is there more than that we know? Because remember that conversation with her and Newman, Victoria Newman, about, you know, how she has the similar powers and how she can do things and that kind of stuff. So I wonder if when they do show up in season 4 of The Boys, if we will see more evolution of Marie's powers, because I'm still confused by that whole scenario there.
And we've seen her literally, yeah, I love that line. But we've seen her literally like pull that one person's blood back into their body and everything, and like heal them. So maybe like her powers naturally did that. I mean, there's kind of a period of time there where you're kind of like, huh. Interesting, because like she kind of blacks out right when she takes that blast, and then it's like everybody's just in that room and there seems to be no exit, nowhere to go. So I'm gonna assume that they're in the woods, you know, maybe after that. That it kind of feels that way. I mean, it's kind of like a similar kind of type environment, but who really knows, you know?
Yeah, you still go ahead.
I was gonna say, you brought up the fact there, the Newman connection, you know, Marie talking to Newman as well. Obviously they've got the same powers. Well, that at least that's what Newman tells Marie, that they're the same powers, and that she's obviously, Newman's developed hers a little bit further along the line than what Marie has. But then didn't Marie do something where she said, "I didn't realize that we could do that," or something? I'm sure one of them says something along those lines, that I didn't realize that we could do that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's interesting as well. Like if Newman's going to try and, you know, help the kids out, or whether Marie's going to use her contact there, because obviously she's the only one that knows that Newman's got powers. Nobody else, you know, everyone else doesn't know that.
Well, I mean, and Stan Edgar from The Boys like knew that Newman had powers too, and it seemed like he was kind of keeping that one kind of close to the vest, like it was like under wraps almost. And it almost makes me wonder if he like was doing that because he thought that maybe Newman might be a backup plan to get rid of Homelander with her whole head popping thing, you know. You know, you kind of watch this where she meets Newman and she learns that they have similar powers and everything. And then you see at the end of this show with the soup virus that's being made, Newman gets that virus. Nobody knows that she's a soup, and then she kills that guy like right away, and gets in the car and leaves. So like Newman is like playing this game where I don't know if she's like for the soups or for the human. You know, she's like back and forth.
Maybe for herself.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that's where this is going. And, you know, she's running as the vice president on that ticket with Robert Singer in the show. In the comics, they kill the president. I almost got this like weird feeling that she's going to end up killing Robert Singer and becoming president and
Yeah.
slide into that
Yep.
position. And everybody will just be like, "Oh, it must have been a suit," but nobody will know that it was actually her that actually did it because nobody knows that she's got powers other than Stan Edgar and Marie. So,
Yep.
very
And it
interesting.
maybe Maria then use that, like, you know, blackmail maybe, or something along those lines, and then start a little conflict with her. So yeah.
One more thing too, Marie actually, I think, was in the same orphanage as Newman
Yes.
as well. So
Appeared
they
so,
both-
yes.
Yeah, so they both have the same powers. They were both in the same circumstance and everything like that. And that was kind of Newman's appeal to Marie, which was, I've been in your shoes with literally the exact same powers and everything. Like, you know, I've been in your spot, but this is what you can do, kind of type of thing. And I thought that was really interesting.
And this all obviously leads as well into season 4 of The Boys, which we got a trailer for the other week, and we saw Jeffrey Dean Morgan turn up. He's obviously friends with Butcher somehow. He's such a great guy. Although I do feel like it just did feel like he was playing Negan again from from Walking Dead. He's almost like someone said to me about Ryan Reynolds the other day. I was like, he's such a great actor. I was like, yeah, but he just plays Ryan Reynolds every time he plays anybody. You know, I'm not suggesting I don't like his movies and I don't like his stuff, but he does just play Ryan Reynolds. You know, if you watch I know, Darren, you're a soccer fan. If you watch Welcome to Wrexham yet, and he's just like, he's the same person. But in that, when he's not playing himself, he's himself, and he's the same person as in every one of his movies. And I'm getting this kind of feeling from Jeffrey Dean Morgan when he come on there. I was like, I bet that's what he's like in real life as well. But that's the guy, you know. But that's going to be interesting as well. What kind of character, who he's playing, and what he's bringing to the table, and why he's talking to Butcher, what he's trying to get out of it. And there was some cool little visuals in the trailer there. The one that sticks out for me is the Homelander one. You know, at the end where he's covered in blood. I think he's in an elevator. I'm not sure. But yeah, that looked going back to that gruesome thing. That looked pretty cool. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see how these two play into each other.
And you know, Gen V, I think, in my opinion, kind of tees up basically like The Boys season 4, because in this you've got, like, the Dean goes and sees Mallory from The Boys, has a conversation with her, talks about the virus, and is like, hey, I have this virus that we can use. And she's basically like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, we're not going to join you in that type of way of trying to take on Soups. And then Mallory steps away and makes a phone call, like the last time we see her in Gen V, and you have no clue who she's talking to. And then at the end of The Boys, at the end of Gen V, you see Billy Butcher in the woods walking around with a flashlight looking around.
Yeah,
so
he definitely called him.
Yeah, so like, it's like, I almost feel like, you know, we've seen Butcher in season 3 of The Boys was struggling with, after taking the compound V, like, and everything. His body's weak. He's struggling. He's had some adverse effects with taking those shots. So I feel like they're going to tell us that he's probably not going to have that long to live. And moving forward, maybe Butcher's going to be on this like roller coaster of he's going to try and take out Soups real quick before he dies, kind of type of thing. If he's really got really bad health issues because of, you know, what he was taking.
Or do you think that virus is a way to a cure for him, possibly?
What? So as in, yeah, maybe if he
Maybe they could change that up and make that a cure. You know,
then it takes away the superpowers, maybe.
Yeah, like if you're not as like if you're short term, like you're not long term, like, you know, the long term people, it's gonna kill them. But people who are more short term, like Butcher and Huey, is that going to take away their powers and possibly be a way for a cure for them? You know, that would be interesting to see if that happens in season 4.
I just see like Butcher being like, hey, there's an opportunity out there for me to kill Soups like as quickly as possible before I die. Let me go find this virus and find it in a vial somewhere and try and get it out there, you know. And I think that would be really interesting.
You also think too that could be their Homelander deterrent as well as another option.
Yeah. Because that would be another way for them to try and take down Homelander, because it seems pretty hard, like, to take him down. So
I love that whole idea how they've created this monster in Homelander, and then he's just totally out of control now, and they're scared of him, and nobody's got a hold on him at all, and he can basically just do whatever he wants, and that's what everybody's scared of. Everybody's scared that he will just one day do whatever he wants, and I love that it's from their own making.
And I almost feel like Edgar's kind of realized that, hey, like, I've kind of created this monster, but he's really the only one, I think, in the boys that kind of put him in his place when he told him that he was just a product and that he would throw him to the side just like anybody else. And it was kind of like one of those things, like, you like the fame, you like the fortune, don't you, Homelander? Well, I'll take all that away from you if you don't do as I say. And it's like, Homelander's like, wow. Okay.
And I guess that's a little play on that kind of, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, like as in how strong you are, how physically strong you are. But if you've not got those other powers at your disposal, the powers of like what Edgar's talking about, making him, taking away that fame, cutting him off and all of that kind of stuff, that can be just as powerful as actual physical strength.
Do we know if we're going to see any more Soldier Boy in this next season, or do we think after the end of season 3 that he's going to kind of be on the back burner?
What happened at the end of season 3 with him? Where did he go?
I know, didn't Mauve sacrifice herself to kind of take him down? I thought they may have put him back on ice or in a coma, maybe.
I think they did. I think she like jumped out the window and like took him out, and he like fired off that beam out of his chest or whatever, but he like got put on ice. I think they thought that she died or something, and then that was like she snuck out of kind of being in the 7 that way. She kind of got her out a little bit.
And it took her powers away, similar to Kimiko too, it looked like.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to be one of those things that's going to be like another thing on the back burner that could potentially take down Homelander, right? Like, I mean, when he made his appearance, like, they didn't expect him to be, like, have that ability to shoot that beam out of his chest or whatever. But it almost kind of seemed like, it's like that line in Iron Man 2 where it's like, if you make God bleed, then there'll be sharks in the water kind of type of thing. And that's kind of like how I kind of felt like that was with Homelander when he has that fight with Butcher with superpowers and Soldier Boy. It was just like Homelander was just like overwhelmed, because it's like he's always been the strongest, but he's never fought anybody that's on par with him in powers and can fight.
Yeah. I was
since he doesn't have anybody like skilled to fight him,
I think I said the other day, didn't I? I reread Planet. Sorry, I've just realised I've gone really bright, and it must have just got cold in here. I've got my snake. Can you see? There's the shadow running across my face all the time. So my snake's just got really, really active, and she's moving around. Like she must just knock the light, and it's just like come on a little bit more. Where was I? Reread World War Hulk, and there's a great line in there where Sentry, or I can't remember which way around it is, whether it's Sentry that says it's Hulk or Hulk says it's Sentry, and he says like, you're the only one I can hit like this. And I love that line, and it's almost like the same with like Homelander and Soldier Boy, isn't it? It's almost like you're the only person I can hit like this, because anybody else I'd just kill them like instantly. Where they're like the sort of the big boys, aren't they? They can take out these big power punches and big power moves, and they're still able to carry on fighting, so they probably enjoy it in a way.
I mean, I think that Butcher was not even on par with Homelander when he took the Compound V, but even he gave Homelander a run for his money, because Butcher knows how to fight.
Yep.
Like, then you add Soldier Boy to that, and it just makes it twice as worse, because like Soldier Boy actually knew how to fight. And it's like Homelander's never fought anybody that's in his league. It's always he just runs through people because he's just incredibly strong. So I think it's just like you said, it's a great little thing. Like Homelander's kind of hit this wall now where suddenly like he's being challenged, and he doesn't like that. That also hurts his ego a little bit, and yeah, I feel like we might see Soldier Boy maybe in a Boys season 5 or a Boys season 6 where he comes out to potentially go at Homelander or something, if they can wind him up and get him to kind of go at him. But I think we had that reveal where Homelander was actually like his son or something like that.
And Stormfront was his mother. Liberty Bell / Stormfront was his mother. So yeah.
a great situation there, which without ruining anything, that there's similar sort of things that go on in that 12 Monkeys. Actually, this kind of whole like who's the mum, who's the dad, who's the sort of donor, and where's the origin, and this sort of loop thing, and that's really cool. That's really cool to watch as well. Never gets as freaky as as the boys, but not in that kind of way. Well, maybe it gets freakier. I don't know.
Speaking of Soldier Boy, it was cool to see him in Gen V and the usage of him. I still hope we get Jensen Ackles in the MCU. I don't think we're ever going to get a proper Tony Masters, but if they ever did Tony Masters in the MCU, Jensen Ackles will be my number one way far choice, depending on how old they went, right, with them. If they wanted to go older with them, Jeffrey D. Morgan would be my second choice. If they wanted, the age-wise. Because if you look at Jeffrey D. Morgan from Watchmen / like Rampage / Negan and kind of combine that together, I could see him playing an older Tony Masters role. If they went younger, Jensen Ackles, his portrayal of Soldier Boy, gave me some Tony Masters vibes.
He was so great as the comedian in The Watchmen, and that fight scene with him, like in the beginning of the movie, was fantastic. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan always does great in those types of like scenes. And I'm gonna be honest, he's really good at playing a bad guy too. Like when he played Negan, I loved him as Negan. Like I had kind of gotten lost in The Walking Dead at that point watching the show, but when Negan came around, I was like, oh, I've been waiting for this. Like finally, Negan's here.
And he was good.
And even his introduction. Oh, yeah. I mean, his introduction, that whole thing where they pulled up the RV right off the bat, and then he walks out and threatens everybody. Oh, that was beautiful. Like, that was so good, Like,
have you seen the Chappelle skit of that?
Yes.
That is hilarious. Yeah. So the Dave Chappelle skit, it's basically all of Chappelle's different characters on the ground there when they have them all out there on the ground. Yeah, and it's him as Negan too. Yeah, it's hilarious.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, but yeah, he's great, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Talking about that Watchmen movie as well, I think that was like massively overlooked. It sort of just seemed to go under the radar. I think maybe it was ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. If it would have come out sort of now, maybe not now. Everyone's sort of, crapping on superhero stuff at the moment. But if it would have come out maybe 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago even, I think it may have done a lot better than what it did. I mean, it must be 10, at least 10, 15 years old now, maybe. Mm-hmm. It was out quite a while ago.
Yeah, I wonder if they could make another one, because I know the Watchmen one they did recently was pretty good. I did enjoy that one. Yeah, it was the show that was on HBO Max.
It was,
right.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
really good.
Well, the Max now, whatever it's called. I wonder if they'll do another style of that show, like and focus on another character of it, like a Rorschach or something like that. Because we kind of got the main focus was on one blue dude. I can't remember his name.
Manhattan.
Yeah, Dr. Manhattan. Thank you. I went blank there. And so I wonder if they would do like another character angle of that and kind of build it around that.
Okay, I might have to give that a go. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think Rorschach in the Watchmen movie was kind of a standout for me. I mean, I love Dr. Manhattan, like great character, very cool. But Rorschach was just like one of those. He kind of reminds me of like DC's The Question in a way. But I mean, like, I love that mask that he wears that just changes and everything. Yeah. Oh man, it's so awesome. And I love that scene where he's in prison.
Yes.
It's like, when are you all gonna understand that I'm not trapped in here with you? You're all trapped in here with me.
Yes.
Like, that is such a great scene. Like, man.
I'm gonna have to watch that movie again. I'd never even heard of The Watchmen until that movie came out, and then I went and literally watched that movie and went and bought the graphic novel straight away, and I was just absolutely hooked. It was so good. So I'm going to have to watch that again. I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we've digressed a little bit away from Gen V, which is not a surprise. That's nothing unusual for us. But yeah, I mean, look, I think generally speaking, we're all big fans of Gen V here. I think we really enjoyed it. The character development of it, the story, the writing, the acting. I think it was great. The way it sort of fitted in with the boys as well, and it gave us little nods to what's been happening in the boys. But it developed its own story. And it moved the boys' story along as well. Mm-hmm. A really well done, sideshow. That's not what are they called. It's not a sideshow.
Spin-offs.
Spin-off. Thank you. Really well done spin-off, and that's probably not giving it enough credit to call it a spin-off because it was a good enough show on its own.
And it's getting a season 2.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Yeah. So very happy with that. Looking forward to The Boys season 4. Any closing thoughts on Gen V before we move on?
I'm looking forward to seeing how it how it leads into The Boys season 4, and to see who shows up from that team or from those characters. Also, to looking forward to see if once season 4 of The Boys ends, if that's going to kind of play into Gen V season 2, or if we just like a small partial cameo and that's going to branch off of season 2 for Gen V. So interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw this out there, kind of leading into The Boys. I feel like the Seven is kind of like decimated right now, right? Like, I mean, you've got Starlight and Maeve who have both left. I think Homelander killed Black Noir, didn't he? And
Well,
like
Killed.
killed, yeah, you know. But I mean, you've got like A-Train who was having some issues, some health issues and things like that at one point. The Deep, Homelander. So you know, it's like they had that great scene in Gen V where they're all sitting down and they're looking at people from Godolkin to go to the Seven. And I feel like a lot of that might play into this. Like, I'm not saying that we'll see like Sam or Kate or, you know, any of these other characters that they like kind of teed up as heroes or whatever will be on the Seven at some point, but I'm just saying, like, I thought that was a really interesting kind of thing that they had where they all sat them down and they're like, hey, let's figure out if we want to move on up to the Seven.
It'd be interesting to see Homelander take Sam underneath his wing and Sam be on the Seven. That would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe Sam and Kate, even Kate with one arm. They're the heroes now. Maybe that was part of their deal. Part of their deal was that you're going to go on the Seven. Yeah. Let's. When is The Boys season 4 coming out? That must be in the
They
spring,
haven't.
I would imagine.
They just said it 2024. I don't think we have an exact date yet on season 4.
Okay. All right then. So should we move on to some news and some rumors from the last week or so, Joe?
Let's start with The Boys news. The Boys Mexico spinoff is in the works. Will be developed by Blue Beetle writer Gareth Dunnett Alcocer, which would be interesting because I like Blue Beetle, and if they could do some of that tone in there as well. The series is going to be executive produced by Andor's Diego Luna and work by Night's Gail Garcia Bernal. They're also interested in potentially having a minor role of some kind in the series. So,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I really enjoyed Diego Luna in Andor. I thought he was excellent.
Yep.
I really liked Andor. So, yeah.
And then Eric Kripke says he's working on a scene from The Boys season 4 and said that might be the batshit craziest thing we've ever done. Like, I truly can't believe we got away with it. So look forward to that when that happens.
I just really want to see us just going with The Boys, talking about that Homelander scene in the trailer where he's just covered in blood, and then just relating it to Marvel. We've seen it a couple of times in Marvel, haven't we? We saw Sentry. Was it Sentry that pulled Ares apart?
Mm-hmm.
And then was it Carnage that then... No, not Carnage. Null that then pulls somebody else apart. And we've seen that where they just get pulled apart. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe we'll see Homelander pull somebody apart.
It kind of gives me some of that American Psycho vibes when he Bateman kills Paul Allen with the axe, and he has the blood all over his face.
Yeah.
Similar vibe
Standing there, he just looks really satisfied, doesn't he? Homelander in the trailer, he just looks satisfied that he's just done it. Like Alex said, he's doing it because he enjoys it. You know, Sam does it because he just kind of has these moments. But anyway, carry on, John. Back to you.
Marvel news. Marvel settles fight with Steve Ditko estate over Spider-Man Doctor Strange rights. Via the Hollywood Reporter, attorneys for the company and estate of Steve Ditko on Wednesday notified the court they've reached an amicable settlement and expect the stipulation of dismissal with prejudice to be filed in the coming weeks. So,
no, I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Filming updates. Deadpool 3 did restart before Thanksgiving. Wonder Man was reportedly supposed to restart after, but I haven't got anything about it that if it has restarted or not. There's still plans for Captain America Brave New World to do reshoots starting in 2024 in January. Fantastic Four, which is supposed to start shooting in spring of 2024. Where you at with the announcements? Is it going to be a Christmas thing? Is it going to be a New Year's thing? they've got to announce the cast here pretty soon if they're going to start doing production here pretty soon. Thunderbolt's supposed to start in mid-spring of next year. And then Blade is supposedly supposed to start fourth quarter of next year. So
all hands on deck for next year then.
Yeah. Yep, one movie, but a lot of projects in motion. So
Nice.
via Disney Plus UK, it has confirmed that Echo X97 and Agatha Darkhold Diaries are all confirmed to be released in 2024 on Disney Plus, which we know Echo is going to be next month in its entirety. We still don't have confirmed dates for X97 and Agatha, but it looks like X-Men's probably going to be spring, summer, and Agatha fall time frame, it looks like.
Okay.
Other things too, it confirmed Lucasfilms released the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew in 2024 as well, from the same post. So right now there is no Andor season 2 coming next year. So Chris Evans did talk about returning for a new Avengers film when he was on The View. He said, "No one's spoken to me about it, and look, I would never say never, but I'm very protective. It's a very precious role to me, so it would have to be just right." Now, here's other things. So that rumored Nomad series, which we had no idea who was going to be about and who's going to star, it was back, long ago, reportedly, that time frame between Civil War and Infinity War. The patents are back alive again. That's the one project that's still floating out there, but there's no other news about it. So it's interesting to see that's kind of lit up again, and I wonder if we're going to start getting some more news about that and who's it's going to be about, so
I don't know how I feel now about going back that far. I always said that I was never bothered about going backwards in time and hearing other stories, but I don't know. I don't know whether now I'm not past it. I don't mean I'm past it. I don't know.
From the chat here, Chris said the same thing at C2E2 in Chicago back in March. So there you go. So he's sticking to it,
I keep thinking to myself, like, wouldn't it be funny if he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna come back and play Steve Rogers, but he comes back and he plays like Human Torch, like in Secret Wars or something like that, just
or in
briefly.
Deadpool 3.
Yeah, Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
He has been very clear though. He has said he's not coming back to play Captain America. And I think that he's chosen those words very carefully. He's made it very clear that Sam Wilson is Captain America at the moment, and he's not coming back to play Captain America.
But he's still coming back as Steve Rogers.
He can come back as Steve Rogers, exactly. And I think that's what I'm saying. He's come back very clear, come out very clear with those words.
Back to that Nomad thing. What if it's a series about Bucky and it's after the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and before the events of Thunderbolts?
Yeah.
What if that ends up being the case with that Nomad series?
Right. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Kevin Feige via Vanity Fair says they will not resurrect Iron Man. Marvel has a reputation for resurrecting characters who seemingly meet their ends, but Feige says that won't happen to Stark. He says, "We're going to keep that momentum and not touch that moment again. We all worked very hard for many years to get that, and we would never want to magically undo it in any way." So that says that we could possibly get a Stark AI. We could probably get a Tony Stark from another universe, a variant. But they're not going to do the Stark that we know in this universe. From the chat here, this is a great point. Maybe that is what Scarlett Johansson is producing the Nomad, because she is still working on an unnamed project for Marvel, and we have no idea what it is or what it's about. That's a good shout from the chat. Downey was also even reluctant to do reshoots and redo a single line of dialogue after Stark's last scene for Endgame. So he's even reluctant to come back and do anything and change anything.
I think it'd be a shame if we could never see Iron Man / Tony Stark ever again.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know that. I don't know that he should come back as that Tony Stark, as an alive human being Tony Stark. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if the MCU is gonna soft reboot after Secret Wars, and we're gonna get Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and we can do some of those big stories that have been done in the comics that involve a lot of characters, and we haven't got Tony Stark and we haven't got Steve Rogers to be able to do them. I think that would be a shame.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think they should cheapen any deaths or any storylines. But we spoke about it before. There's many ways they can bring characters in and characters back, or new versions of characters. And I think some storylines deserve to have all the characters available from the source material to use. Just my opinion.
Bruce Campbell, who we always know shows up in Raimi movies, he still has a mystery character out there. So via comicbook.com, he claims that his characters in the Spider-Man films from Raimi, in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, are the same person. We don't know who he really is. It's not been revealed yet. I just got off the phone with the guys at Marvel, and we're getting close to finding out. Now, it was once said that he was Mysterio in Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Could he be a Mysterio variant? But I'm thinking, what if... Because right now, there's a lot of smoke out there about Raimi doing Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, or Secret Wars Part 1, Part 2, whatever they call it. What if he's the Beyonder? Like, this whole time, he's the Beyonder.
Yeah, just in there watching.
Yeah.
As long as he's not the Pizza Papa.
Yeah.
Anymore, like,
Pizza Papa always gets paid.
Yeah, I just don't want to see that again,
From the chat here, after Secret Wars and the reboot, we should get a fresh start with everyone. True, but we'll see what happens. World War Hulk.
Ooh.
Via comicbook.com, Mark Ruffalo confirms he's been working on a developing new standalone Hulk film. He revealed that while he cannot comment on Hulk's standalone future, he has been workshopping ideas of what it could be. But he also said, not that I know of, when he was asked why he's doing a tour, when asked about anything has changed regarding our Hulk movie, he says, I've been asked them to comment on it, that specifically. Hopefully one day they'll work it out. I think it could be really cool, and I've been putting a lot of work into what could be a cool, but I don't know yet. So
okay. No,
he's...
he wants it, but no news.
And if he spoils it, he probably won't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Secret Wars. Patrick Stewart says it's possible for him to return as Professor X in an Avengers Secret Wars. I cannot put it to rest because it's not a fact, either for or against. It's a possibility. So that's what he says.
I'd say that to me says that somebody's spoken about it to him.
Yep.
There's if he didn't know anything, he would just say, I just don't know anything.
Yeah.
But just saying it's a possibility means that, surely that means that someone somewhere along the line has actually said something to him about it being a possibility.
Wiccan Scarlet Witch / Children's Crusade news. Reportedly, Marvel Studios is still developing a Wiccan series for Disney Plus. The current plan is to have the series lead into a solo Scarlet Witch movie. Marvel is also currently discussing how to handle the Children's Crusade storyline for the MCU. They could still do it, because we know back at Scarlet Witch could have lost her memory. That's how they could bring Doom in the thing. How they get back. Doom rolls up on his bear to Wundagore and gets her, and that's the start of that project. So that'd be interesting to see. From the chat here, love the sounds of that. I knew that would get some good feedback there. Agatha, reportedly, and I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Okui Opak Wasili's character is named Vertigo in the Darkhold Diaries. Vertigo is the leader of the Salem 7, and I think so far this is the only person from the comics that's actually going to be in Agatha right now as part of the Salem 7, because that is a comic book character.
Okay. I'm glad you have to pronounce these names and not me.
Let me see here. Deadpool 3, via Collider, Jennifer Garner, when questioned about reprising her role as Elektra. I don't know what you're talking about. What could you mean? But we pretty much know she's in the movie, it sounds like. Via Daniel RPK, Daphne Keane reportedly returned as X-23 as Laura. So that's good news. Rob Liefeld via comicbook.com says Brad Pitt was originally set to play Cable in Deadpool 2 before the role went to Josh Brolin. He says, I know for 100% fact that was true. They did previews, and David Leitch had a very special relationship doing stunt work with Pitt. What people didn't know is that was very early on. So when they knew they weren't going in that direction, they went down several others. Liefeld wanted to say how Josh Brolin's wife, who's Diane Lane, had to convince him to read for the Cable role and talked him into trying out. So,
and Brad Pitt was was the Vanisher technically in that
Yep.
movie, wasn't he? Yeah. So
From the chat here, Daphne is great news. She deserves it. Yeah, I'd love to see that and how they handle that, especially now with her being older.
I haven't seen her in anything since.
No, I haven't either.
Has she been in a great deal of things since? I mean,
Not that I know of.
She was great in Logan, and she only has to just do that again, and it'll be fine. But I was just wondering if anybody's seen her in anything.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. While we're on the Deadpool thing, I mean, it's worth bringing up. I think the sort of spoiler images, the set look photos that have been popped out there, and then Ryan Reynolds' response to it with some of the sort of the photo edited versions that he's put on there. The one that made me laugh was Deadpool running off with a bag of money with Mickey Mouse banging in the background. That's so good. He's so funny. I thought that was brilliant. But yeah, back to you, Joe.
Monica Baccarin confirms return via comicbook.com. It did work out. I finished my shooting days on it already. I think the film is now underway again after the strike, and I think it's going to be quite good. Yeah, I think fans are in for a fun surprise. So,
cool.
It's
going to be jam packed full of stuff. That movie, isn't it? It really is. It's going to be a whirlwind of hilarity. I think it's going to be quite good. I think it's going to be quite funny, and I think he's not going to take itself too seriously, while also playing a big part in this next phase of the MCU.
Yeah, the next phase is going to be interesting because, never mind, I'm not going there today. We'll talk more comes out about that. Thor 5, via Daniel RPK, Marvel Studios reportedly wants Thor 5 to have a darker tone in comparison to the last two Thor films. Now, if you wanted a darker tone, you should have done Gore the God Butcher for this fifth film. Anyways, they're currently looking for a director with more serious work. Gareth Edwards is one of the directors they're looking at to direct the fifth installment. Now, if they want a dark film, what would you want to go with? Would you want to go with the Siege storyline of New Asgard, especially after what we saw in the Marvels? Would you want to go with... What other storyline would you want to go with?
I love the Siege storyline. I just don't think, again, this is what I was just saying about in regards to bringing Tony Stark and Steve Rogers back, that I don't know whether they've got all the characters available yet that need to be in there. And will you then just be bastardizing the story?
Yeah, true.
Just to get that story done, and then you're like, well, look, hold on, because you can do this soon, and it'll be great. So no, probably not.
Since they're bringing Hercules in, I'd probably go with the one where we saw the Pantheon of the Gods, we saw that kind of stuff. I would go with the one where they're enemies at first. They have to team up. Hades is taking down the other gods. I think that one, I can't remember that storyline what's called, but there's one where they have to fight Hades, and Hades is taking down other gods and so forth. If they want to build on the God Butcher stuff in the last one, and then go with the Pantheon of the Gods, especially the like Zeus and all the Olympian type stuff, go with, I can't remember that storyline. I have to go look it up. I think I mentioned this before, but go with that storyline to where Hercules at first is after him. Then later on, they team up. Maybe a way you could also bring in Beta Ray Bill possibly to help team up, have a trio and to go head to head with, Olympians, Ares, Hades, that kind of stuff, and go down that storyline. That could be a dark storyline they could do, but I don't know if they're going to do it. I think this one's it's not actually Hades, it's Pluto in that storyline, I believe. I have to go look it back up. I'm very hazy on the details.
Hades is Greek mythology. Pluto is Roman mythology.
Yeah, so. I can't remember which one is it Hades or Pluto, one of the two in the storyline, but I think you know which I'm talking about, storyline, where they have to go into with the other gods and they're all dying and that kind of stuff.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but the last Thor storyline I read was the one where it flips between it might have even been hold on. It was the God Butcher one. It flips between the future Thor and present Thor, and then another Thor, and it flips back and forwards. The story just goes back and forwards between the three different Thors. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, which one was
You
that?
can really tell I'm on a time travel kick at the moment, can't you? I really want to see Thor in the future, and Thor in the middle future, and Thor now, and Thor in the past. I think that'd be great. Actually, that would be really, really good. I'm going to go and find it in a minute, and I'm going to put it on this chat and tell you exactly what storyline it was.
Mm-hmm.
Was it that Thor vs. Hercules storyline where they had all that stuff in there? It might be that whole Thor verse storyline stuff that I might be talking about, where they have the War of the Gods. Yes, it's the Mighty Thor. It's the War of the Gods. I think that's the storyline where at first they're against each other, but it's more about Hades trying to invade Asgard and that kind of stuff and kill other gods and so forth. So if they go with that storyline, that could be a very dark storyline.
Sounds good.
So, from the chat here, dead sick of the spoilers. The Sabretooth, this is in reference to Deadpool 3. The Sabretooth one was the last straw for me. I saw a site today and they said they'll no longer do that. Wish I could remember the name of the site. They deserve a shout out for that move. So a shout for that move. So
to be fair, that site was probably one of the same sites that immediately shared those images as soon as they got them.
Yeah.
And then they're used in this kind of, we won't do it anymore. Like, look at us, we're great. You know, they've like created their own morality there, haven't they? They've kind of, oh, we won't do that anymore because Ryan Reynolds said to not do it, so we won't do it. Look at us.
And that's the funny part to me is like through all this time nobody cares, but Ryan Reynolds says something and suddenly everybody's like, all right, like let's slow it down, you know, like and he plays Deadpool, like the character that is breaking fourth walls and doesn't care about that.
Yeah,
it's just it's so funny to me, like, you know.
Yeah, very ironic, but yeah, I mean, I'll make him right though.
From the chat here about what you said about that, probably right, Andy, from the chat here. So, Spider-Man 4 news, Tom Holland via Collider. All I can say is that we've been actively engaging in conversations about what it could potentially look like for a fourth rendition of my character. Whether or not we can find a way to do justice to the character is another thing. I feel very protective over Spider-Man. I feel very, very lucky that we were able to work on a franchise that got better with each movie, that got more successful with each movie, which I really think is really where I want to protect his legacy, so I won't make another one for the sake of making another one. It'll have to be worthwhile, the character. Now, this is recently, but a year ago, he said he met with Marvel Studios and Sony and the storyline he was all excited for. So I'm not sure what changed in a year. I'm not sure with everything with the whole Disney and Marvel stuff, if you know, people above stepped in. I don't know if Sony changed anything, but he was excited to do it. You know, the last time he talked about this, also too, you know, where they left him after No Way Home was to set up more of the street line level of stuff, which I think that they should do, and they should go on that angle.
Literally, I was about to say what this comment says.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he's got the same script writer as Chris Evans.
Yeah. Yeah, from the chat here.
It sounds like the same marketing person has gone, read this. And he's gone, I'll only do it if it's the right thing to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree. You absolutely should only do it if it's the right thing to do. It just sounds funny. That's what Chris Evans has just said. So Tom Holland saying the same thing. But I'd really like to see it. He's obviously stripped back after No Way Home. He's stripped right back, isn't he? He's got nothing. He's got his police radio and he's got his basic, you know, spandex suit. Brilliant. Mm-hmm. Let's see him really stripped back. Let's see some real good street level stuff. Maybe we can see Kingpin in there. Maybe we can see
Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil.
I would love to see him and Daredevil in a movie together. You know, that would be great if they did that. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I think that would make a bit of sense, wouldn't it? If they've got if they look like they're going down the Devil's Reign thing with Kingpin being the mayor of New York, and Daredevil's showing up in Echo. Daredevil's got his own show. You know, yeah, I think that would be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even see a proper Rhino. I don't know, but probably never get that. Anyways.
or maybe pay off on the Scorpion.
Yeah.
On the Scorpion.
Yeah. Pull that thread.
Yeah. What has it been? 2 Spider-Man movies since that? 3 Spider-Man movies
3.
since that? Yeah, 3, and still.
And all of his other appearances as well. Yeah. So not just
Or maybe get a Tombstone. Maybe get, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
Via Daniel RPK, Drew Goddard is reportedly between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios' choices to direct Spider-Man 4. So,
I think that's a good idea. 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 I think that's
I thought you were gonna say something, Andy.
I was going to, and then I stopped.
Okay. Blade. Mahershala Ali responds to all the changes happening for the Blade project. We're working on it. That's the best I could tell you. I'm really encouraged with the direction of the project. I think we'll be back at it relatively soon. I'm sincerely encouraged in terms of where things are at and who's on board and who's leading the way as far as the writing of the script and the directing and all that. So that's the extent of what I can tell you. Now, one thing I'll say is, have you guys seen the trailer for the Blade game?
No.
Oh, there was a trailer recently for a new Blade video game. I'm like, just do that for the movie. That trailer looked pretty good. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing a Blade video game.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna get a little window up now so that I don't forget to do that. Carry on.
The Marvels. Brie Larson says one of the aspects I love about it is Carol's journey here. It's about understanding that it takes more than one person to save the world. It takes a lot of people with their unique skill sets, and it takes coming together as a team. And I love, a love of love and compassion to make a better world. So, now on the flip side, Iger blames the underperformance of the Marvels on a large volume of content, making it difficult for execs to supervise via The Verge. I don't think that we need more supervision. I think Nia DaCosta nailed it with that movie. You know, especially with everything happening on with the rescheduling, all that kind of stuff going on. I think she did a fantastic job. So that movie did not need more supervision. But he did not blame the actor strike and the lack of publicity for the film's performance, which he should have. Because you cannot, you get Iman Vannelli, you get Brie Larson, and you get Teyana Paris out there on the junket like they usually do to promote that film. That film does do better, right? The actor strike and the lack of publicity absolutely had a factor to do with this film. Nor did he blame the weird hatred of the film driven by sexism coming from a small and vocal part of Marvel fans upset over a film helmed by 3 women. That also had to do with it too, because there was all kinds of hate out there, and there's still hate out there about that film. He did blame the sheer volume of content being created for making it more difficult to maintain quality, and said the Marvels was shot during COVID and there wasn't enough supervision on the set from executives. Again, this movie did not need more supervision. It was fine. I'll say it again, I said it many times, Nia DaCosta did a fantastic job with this film. Absolutely, the sexism, the rescheduling, the strike, all that stuff had major factors with this film's where it ended up.
Here's my problem with all that, though, is I love this movie, but with all of that, we could blame all that, but that's the first movie went and made like $1.1 billion for Captain Marvel. This movie hasn't even crossed $200 million in theaters. If without the strike, without the people, if we got all those people out there, they were promoting this movie and everything, I don't think this movie would have made $700 million. I don't think this movie would have made $900 million. And I mean, the small group of sexist people, I mean, it even acknowledges that that's a small group of people. I still don't think that this movie would have made over $1 billion.
I don't think so either.
It wouldn't have. Not even close.
Yeah.
So, they had like what, $270 million invested in this movie or something like that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of movie. It's a great movie. It's one of the best Marvel movies I've seen recently. But for the life of me, I don't imagine with all the advertising and everything in the world, this movie would have done probably $600 or $700 million. Like, it's hard to gauge how it would have done had it would have been marketed and done, properly the way that it was supposed to. But
I think he's called that wrong there, though. I think everything he said that was the problem, the fact that there was a lack of executives on the set, I don't think. Well, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's the problem. But all the other things are probably the problem. And then I hate using this term. I do, because it doesn't apply to me or either. Well, maybe it does apply to some people that are big fans. I don't know, but it doesn't apply to me. But there is that superhero fatigue. Everyone's like, I don't really want to watch another superhero movie. I want to watch it, especially if it's a superhero movie about people I don't really know. And then especially if it's a superhero movie about people I don't really know, that I don't really know anything about, because nobody's told me anything about it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a combination of things, but I think executives not being on the set is probably one of the last things that I would have blamed it for, but then who am I?
I still think they did do a small misstep by not calling this Captain Marvel the Marvels. They should have followed suit of the Captain America naming things, because again, Captain Marvel did $1 billion.
Yeah.
Right? You need to, I know that Iman Vellani and Tiana Paris had big roles in this still, but I also think they should have still gone on and called it Captain Marvel.
But I mean,
the Marvels.
The other thing though is the strike literally ended like the day that it went into theaters, right? So did they not do any advertising like from that moment on?
Not really.
Like,
they did not.
And that seems like a failure on their part.
Yeah.
Anybody with the movies, I think. I mean, like if the strike ended like the day that the movie goes in theaters, I mean, honestly, for any movie coming out at that time, they had the worst timing possible of the strike ending and then being able to, because like it literally ends right as the day of it going into theaters. So, I mean, like, it's one of those situations where if I would have been in their shoes, I would have gotten out and started promoting it as much as I could. Like, it's in theaters, like, yesterday. Like, get out there and go see this movie. But it seemed like they didn't want to do that for whatever reason.
I think they did start throwing Brie Larson and Iman Vellani out the week after, didn't it?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it got enough. I think it got quite a lot of bad press from. Although they might say it's a small portion of people, I think it got a bad press from quite a large portion of people, to be totally honest.
And the fact that people were happy that the scores, and happy of it didn't do much, and they're all doing victory laps about it. I think that's just sad.
I think what's really strange too is for the amount of chatter of people calling it a bad movie, you would have thought more people would have paid to go see that movie. So that's where I'm kind of at, where it's like a lot of people seem to have an opinion on it, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people went to actually go see the movie to me.
And I guess if there's really fatigue and it's not sexism, I guess we'll see when Aquaman 2 comes out, because Jason Momoa does pull a lot of audience in, and so we'll see how Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom does.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm going to compare this movie kind of to Wonder Woman 1984, and I'm going to explain why. Because the first Wonder Woman made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
It was a great movie, but the second one came out and just bombed, right? Like it was during the pandemic.
But
and
it was also
everything.
terrible too.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad.
So terrible.
But I mean, Aquaman's going to do the same thing. The first Aquaman movie went out and made over $1 billion. It was one of the most successful DC movies besides Wonder Woman. This next one's going to come out and it's going to bomb. It's not going to do well.
I don't know, because look at the last Fast and the Furious film. They added Jason Momoa to it. That thing was a dual stream release, wasn't it? As another one of those that was dual released, and that movie still did pretty well. So never underestimate those type of fans.
The problem though is the attachment's not there anymore. Is people aren't going to go and be excited to go out to the movie theaters and watch a movie for DC that they know doesn't matter.
The problem is that fan base that's going with Jason Momoa, they don't care about DC. They care about seeing Jason Momoa on screen.
Momoa,
yeah, Momoa. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know. Moving on. Marvel Zombies. Via the Direct, Iman Vellani says Kamala Khan is a central character in Marvel Zombies. We've done the whole thing. It was amazing. It was so much fun, and I love there are a lot of cool characters in the Marvel Zombie show, and Kamala is kind of the center of the show. They describe it to me, it's like she's basically the Frodo of the story, and I was like, that's amazing. And I get to interact and meet all those people along their journey, and yes, they're only the voices. I don't get to hear their voices in real time, but it's just my fantasies, right? Like knowing Kamala is going to interact with some really cool people. Even if it's just animation, it's so special in a lot of ways. So I wonder if that project's going to be on the helm for next year, maybe. If they're already, talking about that like that.
I hope they get the tone of it right. Don't get me wrong. I love Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan and Iman Vellani, and I like the Marvels, and I liked Miss Marvel, and I liked all of that. But I also liked the zombie episode of What If, and I hope that we're going to get that
similar tone,
that similar sort of tone. And I hope they don't try and bring zombie. I hope they try and bring Kamala Khan into that world and not that world into Kamala Khan's world. Does that make sense?
It's got to be fast paced. I think that's like the thing with zombie. Anything zombie, it needs to be fast paced, And nothing wrong with Miss Marvel, but that show was very slow. Like it was very slow kind of paced show. To me at least, and zombies should be one of the most fast-paced things in Marvel, in my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, put Kamala Khan in that, and don't put that in Kamala Khan's show. Like, that's not going to work. She'll work in that, but
Yeah.
By the way, talking about fast-paced zombies, I watched World War Z the other day with my son, and the first 20 minutes of that movie is just insane.
Trade at the station.
The first 20 minutes of that movie, I think, is just superb. Like the speed at which that takes off is just, you just don't get a moment to breathe in that first 20 minutes of that movie. So there's a great example of what you was just saying there, Alex, about zombie content being fast-paced.
She also talked about Young Avengers in the MCU via Screen Rant. I think they left so many of the younger character stories open-ended, and to see fans start shipping people together. I want to see Kamala interact with America. I want to see Kamala interact with Patriot. Just all these random people. I think there's so many different avenues you could take with this. It would be interesting if they did an Iron Lad type of thing, because that's still Kang, and that feels it could work. Have Nathaniel Richards be part of the Young Avengers at some point, and then they realize, oh my God, wait, he's like a Kang, but he's a really good, but is he a good guy or a bad guy? I feel like dealing with that would be fun in the direction that the MCU is headed. So,
see, there you go. She knows what she's talking about. Unlike the other day when I read something about Gwyneth Paltrow, and she was like, she didn't even realize, she didn't even watch the rest of Endgame.
Yeah,
it was just sort of in it.
That she suited up. Yeah, she didn't realize that. Yeah. She also said the Marvel sets the stage for her leading a young team. They have the perspectives that older Avengers don't, especially because they had to deal with repercussions, but they're also a fan of the older Avengers. So I think they can really make this team up with something new. I think it'll be way more functional than the Avengers were. I think Kamala being in charge might also get the tone in a really wonderful way. I think she's a natural born leader. She's not only the glue for the Marvels, but could be the glue of the Young Avengers group, because she's mature and she's intelligent. She also has this knowledge about being superheroes and teamwork and how to do it in a way that's ideal and works for everyone. And that's probably learned so much from being on the Marvels. She can bring that into the Young Avengers. So, which I agree with her, because she was pretty much that person that brought the three of them together in that film.
You know, I said it the other day on the group, and I'm going to say it again. She needs to have a little assistance role next to Kevin Feige, if you ask me. Honestly, I really think she does. I think it would be great. She'd just run it like a fan, wouldn't she? She'd run it like a fan.
Like, what if they had her do the Young Avengers side of the MCU with his supervision?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Go on.
She also said via the direct that she wants to see Miss Marvel team up with Spider-Man. Their team ups in the comics are honestly one of my favorites, so that would be cool. As far as Nova, she wants Sam Alexander, not Richard Rider. So
younger.
Yep. Thunderbolts, David Harbour on Red Guardian's Unexplored History via Screen Rant. So they have a lot of unexplored history. There's a lot of details that the director, Jake, has gone into great care of what their life was like in the Midwest when they were doing all that spy stuff. And then a lot of that comes up in really fun, interesting, beautiful ways, which, like in the Black Widow movie, came up with that song, American Pie. And there's just a lot of complexity between me and Florence's character, which I love. So it sounds like they're going to explore some more history between Yelena and Red Guardian. He also said on being on screen again with Yelena since Natasha's death. And there are also two people that she can't stand, but she needs some because she's incomplete in a certain way that he may be able to help her with. I think that always so beautiful, because I feel like our relationships are always so, sometimes we don't get to choose the people that complete us. The people that we really need, I think they exemplify that in their own way. It'll be fun to bring that to life in a movie.
Cool.
Via Daniel RPK, Thunderbolt General Ross will not appear as himself or Red Hulk in Thunderbolts. So we're going to see him in Brave New World, but we're not going to see him in Thunderbolts.
We'll see about that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Elsa Bloodstone and Elsa Bloodstone project is currently in development, also via Daniel RPK. There's an unnamed Marvel project out there that's being developed. It's a TV project called Adventure into Fear, but there is no information on what the project is about. So,
Interesting.
Spider-Man Noir. The Spider-Man Noir series at Amazon has brought on Steve Lightfoot as co-showrunner. Lightfoot previously created and ran the Punisher series at Netflix. The untitled series will follow an older, grizzly superhero in the 1930s New York City. An individual with knowledge of the project says the show will be set in its own universe and the main character will not be Peter Parker.
Okay.
Mandalorian news. There could be big changes for season 4. A rumor via Jeff Snyder a couple months ago, he shot this one down, that there are rumors of season 4 of The Mandalorian can be turned into a movie. He said, I think at that time I didn't think that was necessarily the case. However, that is now I am starting to hear. The odds are in that project's favor. Whatever season 4 of The Mandalorian turns out to be, whoever is in it, what it turns out, whatever shape it takes, it's looking like that could be the next Star Wars movie, and it might be the thing that's announced before the end of the year.
They better hurry up then. We've only got a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Superman Legacy. According to Daniel RPK, they're currently casting Supergirl for the film, so it does not sound like they're bringing Sasha Cal back, which I actually thought she did pretty well in The Flash. So it's sad that we're not going to see her come back as Supergirl. But Sean Gunn has been cast as Maxwell Lord in the DCU.
What a surprise.
Yeah. It's not clear if he'll make the cameo in the Superman Legacy or I can't talk in tongue-tied here. It's not clear if Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord will make a cameo in Superman Legacy or not. So I'll just keep going because I'll just
I'm not gonna say anything nice, so just hold my tongue.
And you was told if you can't say anything nice, don't say nothing.
Indiana Jones news. A new documentary is available on Disney Plus all about Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford. You can also watch Dial of Destiny as well on Disney Plus now. We have some Zack Snyder news, which we saw the Rebel Moon's coming out pretty soon, part 1, and the trailer's out there. But via the Hollywood Reporter, he says he called James Gunn to wish all the best for him. I told him I wanted it to work. Snyder says the chapter of his life is now closed for the DC stuff. It'll be difficult to coax him to reopen it. If his buddy Gunn called and invited him back to DC, he might consider doing a Dark Knight Returns adaptation, but only a true representation of the graphic novel. If Marvel rang, he might think for a beat about Daredevil and Elektra movie, maybe adapting Frank Miller's Elektra Lives Again, but that's it, he insists. What about Star Wars, he says? No, I don't think so. Those guys have a handle on that brand. So, there you go. We talked about the boys stuff. Legend of Zelda. Here's some more news on that project. Wes Ball wants his live-action The Legend of Zelda film to be less like Lord of the Rings and more like a live-action Hayao Miyazaki film. So,
that's
cool.
So it'd be like Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle.
That wonder and whimsy that he brings to things, I would love to see something like that. So, speaking of Legend of Zelda, Eiji Owanuma confirms the next Legend of Zelda will not be a sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. So, something different. The Last of Us, the second season will be released in 2025. And for the final piece of news, some really good news, Twisted Metal has been renewed for season 2.
Do you know what? I still haven't been able to watch the first season yet because I can get Peacock over here, but
you can?
For some reason, but for some reason it's not on the Peacock that I've got. I don't know whether you have to subscribe, and I've just got like a free version of Peacock, or like a taster version or something like that. But I haven't been able to find it. So if anybody in the UK knows where it is, message me and let me know because I do want to watch it.
Also, too,
Anthony Mackie, right?
Yes, Anthony Mackie, and then Jason Sudeikis, is he the one that's voiced in Sweet Tooth? Or no, Will Arnett. Will Arnett is, yeah. And they specifically showed Sweet Tooth in the announcement, so Sweet Tooth is coming back for season 2. It was kind of vague there at the end if he lived or died or not, I think, if I remember correctly. One more thing, too. If you are a Disney Plus bundle subscriber, you now have a Hulu tile in your Disney Plus now. So that beta is live. I actually have it in mine where you can see Hulu content inside Disney Plus.
That stinks. I get mine bundled. I get my Hulu bundled with Spotify, so like that does not help me at all. And I already pay for Disney, so it's like I can't really cancel Spotify. So
I got the bundle that has the 3: ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. So that's all I got for the news. Like Andy said earlier, next week we'll be back doing a 2023 recap show. So anything and everything from 2023. And then until January, I'll just be posting teasers of previous episodes until we come back in January.
And then we'll be back, and we'll have What If to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have all of our 10. Is it 10 episodes or 9 episodes? 9 or 10 episodes.
9 or 10, I can't remember. We'll have
Yeah.
that. Rebel Moon to talk about.
Yeah, Rebel Moon. Yeah, that's out soon. And then
Aquaman.
we'll be previewing Echo.
Yep.
We're gonna have loads to talk about in the new year.
Aquaman comes out when, like this, like a couple weeks from now. Right?
Yeah. Like I think in the next week or two. So
yeah. So I forgot it was so close. I forgot it's right before Christmas. I think it's like December 22nd or something.
They're killing that baby. Every time that commercial comes on, that commercial came on earlier. I'm gonna kill Aquaman and his whole family. I'm just like, yep, that baby's dying. I'm like, Jason Momoa's done as Aquaman. He's gonna get the hook for the spear for the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the house is dying. Mara, his dad, the baby, they're all done. You know, he's gonna team with his half brother. They're gonna go ham and save the day. There's the movie right there.
No,
But will Black Manta? But will Black Manta live or die in this film? I think he dies. So
I mean, like, I feel like he would probably die. I mean, I don't feel like we're gonna ever see an Aquaman 3, unfortunately. So, you know, like, we'll just probably see him go bye-bye at the end of this. And,
from the chat here real quick, thank you for this. Good show, fellows. Looking forward to the next one in the new year. Catch it all then. Thank you.
No worries. We'll catch you then as well. Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Did someone say ham?
Yes, not ham as in rum ham that Frank talks about in It's Always Sunny, but ham from the Kanye song Hard as a. There you go.
Ham.
And on that note, we're going to get out of here. We'll catch you again. Take care.
Bye.
See you guys.